So they can raise their tariffs, but so what?
Trump's tariffs on China are now backfiring as China announces that U.S. tariffs are pushing China and the EU closer. China's Commerce Minister announced today that China had talks with the EU earlier this week and stated that further talks will begin soon with an emphasis on deepening trade, investment, and industrial cooperation between Europe and China.
Well, who saw this coming? While MAGA Republicans lament Trump as a master of negotiation, yes, the man who flip-flopped so many times that even Fox News thought it too volatile not to point out.
Would you be open to a pause in tariffs to allow for negotiations?
Well, we're not looking at that.
Will you do a 90-day pause? Would you consider that?
Or Bill, yeah, I think that the president is going to decide what the president's going to decide.
Here's the thing. This is not a negotiation.
There is no postponing. They are definitely going to stay in place for days and weeks. That is sort of obvious.
Well, it appears our allies aren't exactly backing down, with news just out of Berlin that the European Union and China have agreed to look into setting minimum prices of Chinese-made electric vehicles instead of tariffs imposed by the EU last year.
When people, business leaders are saying to me, why are we doing this? Everyone was very excited about President Trump's agenda, deregulation, tapping into energy, tax cuts. And now, boom, with these tariffs, everything has changed. Why are we doing this?
Well, Maria, I think it's, as you said in the last segment, it's all of the above. President Trump was elected with a mandate. He's closed the border, so check on that. We are doing the very large deportation of people, criminals, and people who have overstayed their visits, their period. So we're in the midst of that. And now President Trump is tackling the trade agenda. And this isn't done in isolation.
Meaning we are pushing them towards our rivals. German newspaper Handelsblatt reported that negotiations had begun in the wake of Trump's on-again, off-again approach that sent the market into freefall. But of course not before allowing his billionaire cronies to get even more grossly rich at the expense of everyday working people.
Did you ever think when you voted for President Trump that things were going to cost you more and you were going to lose money?
I never thought I was going to lose this much money, this fast.
And he made $2.5 billion today, and he made $900 million. That's not bad.
Need an independent investigation into market manipulation because Americans need to know.
I don't want to say this because I'm a patriot. I'm an American. But it is the White House who capitulated based on everything I hear.
But it appears the EU are not going to just wait around to see which way Trump's hair blows. And as China's Commerce Ministry said in a statement, negotiations were set to start immediately. In the past, the EU have increased tariffs on Chinese-built electric vehicles to as much as 45.3%. But Brussels and Beijing have floated the idea of lifting the tariffs through possible commitments to minimum prices.
Mr. President, the EU also announced increases in tariffs today. Why not treat...
Bad timing for them. That's bad timing.
Why not?
They didn't put them in. No, they threatened them, but they picked a later date, which our expectation is it's going to be later still.
Okay, and I'm glad that they held back.
Meaning not only has Trump's tariff rollout cost US stocks an estimated $6 trillion in value as market participants prepared for a widely uncertain future, but it has spooked our allies because clearly Trump can't be trusted.
Tariffs are not the only American policies that are threatening our economy and our society. They're also threatening the safety of our communities. Criminals are taking advantage of irresponsible American gun laws and their weak border enforcement to bring illegal guns into Canada. Large American online platforms have become seas of racism, misogyny, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and hate in all its forms. And they're being used by criminals to harm our children. My government will act. The impacts of other tariffs and the threat of future tariffs are already being felt around the world and here at home. So the stakes have never been higher for our economy. In Canada, there are tariffs that remain in place. Those tariffs are threatening our families, our workers, and our businesses. And while they have been imposed under different pretenses, they all are unjustified, unwarranted, and misguided. So we've been responding, and we are responding with purpose and force. We will fight, we will protect, and we will build. Nous allons nous battre contre ces tarifs.
We will fight these tariffs until they are removed with counter tariffs that will have maximum impact on the United States and minimum impact here in Canada.
The unilateral action that the Trump administration has taken today against every nation in the world does not come as a surprise. For Australia, these tariffs are not unexpected, but let me be clear, they are totally unwarranted. President Trump referred to reciprocal tariffs. A reciprocal tariff would be 0, not 10%. The administration's tariffs have no basis in logic, and they go against the basis of our two nations partnership. This is not the act of a friend. Today's decision will add to uncertainty in the global economy, and it will push up costs for American households. It is the American people who will pay the biggest price for these unjustified tariffs. This is why our government will not be seeking to impose reciprocal tariffs. We will not join a race to the bottom that leads to higher prices and slower growth.
And while some on Fox News are trying their darndest to spin this as some master negotiating tactic, it's going to take a lot more than one day of stock gains to undo the damage to the economy and to America's reputation, which actually was highlighted by Fox's own business contributor.
Trump even admitted that it wasn't the art of the deal or be cool. He said he was watching the bond market. And that's what decided this. He had to cave. I think CNBC's Steve Leisman, he said he didn't just flinch, he ducked. There are trillions still lost. And our very own Charlie Gasparino has been on for the last couple of hours saying that he wished it weren't so, but that the truth is that the White House capitulated.
Well, I mean, because of the mixed messaging, how can you doubt them? I mean, let's be clear what happened. Who capitulated here and why? And, I don't want to say this because I'm a patriot. I'm an American. But it is the White House who capitulated based on everything I hear and all my sources. And the reason why is because of the bond market and what happened last night. Bessent knows this better than anybody. When you have yields on the 10-year rising to 5%, stuff starts shutting down when you have the lending markets screwed up. By the way, who was dumping the bonds? Somebody asked him if it was China, right? Mm-hmm. It wasn't. It was Japan. While he was negotiating with Japan, according to my sources, who are running major money management firms that are involved in the bond market without giving up names, Japan was dumping bonds because they believed this was not a great place to do business. That forced their hands. Now, what you can say, I think, legitimately here, is Trump decided to take the win. And here's why. There was overwhelmingly, deal potential here among the entire world, except for maybe China, right? Everybody really wanted something. So he did take the win, but make no mistake about it. Peter Navarro was talking as of yesterday about not taking the win, and now they did.
So yeah, it's no surprise that the EU are looking to work with China here when the United States is currently helmed by this man.
Yeah. You started the morning saying be cool, and just a few hours later, there was a pause put in on the tariffs. Can you walk us through what you were thinking about why you decided to put a 90-day pause?
Well, I thought that people were jumping a little bit out of line. They were getting yippy, they were getting a little bit yippy, a little bit afraid, unlike these champions, because we have a big job to do. No other president would have done what I did. No other president. I know the presidents, they wouldn't have done it. And it had to be done. What was happening to us on trade, not only with, if you look at it, not only with China, but China was by far the biggest abuser in history, and others also.
Love this video? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch and help us blow past 1 million followers.